Today's lecture is teaching listening. Why listening is important? It should not be difficult to realize the importance of listening when we consider that it occupies about 45% of the time adults spend in communication. And this is significantly more than speaking, which accounts for 30%, and the reading and the writing, which make up 16% and 9% respectively, according to the research done by the scientists. Yet, for all its importance, students and even teachers often fail to give listening the attention it needs. Though this is all the more remarkable as learners often say that listening is the most challenging of all the skills in English, and I think that's true. So what are the challenges in listening? So listening challenges for English language learners, are the following. There are many difficulties an individual may face in understanding a talk, lecture, or conversation in a second language or in a foreign language. So, and the speaker, the situation, and the listener can all be the cause of these difficulties. Even in the native language, it is difficult to understand. So contributing factors include the speakers talking quickly, background noise, a lack of visual clues, such as on the telephone, for example, and the listener's limited vocabulary, a lack of knowledge of the topic, and the inability to distinguish individual sounds. While the challenges posed by the speaker or the situation may be out of the listener's hands, there are few skills or strategies that English learners can use to help them along. So, teaching listening. So, what does it include? So, please remember that when you teach, you have to keep in mind the following things. The first one is the basic framework, pre-listening, while listening, post-listening, and applying the framework to a song as an example. So the first one is the basic framework on which you can construct a listening lesson, can be divided into three main stages. As I have said before, it is pre-listening, while listening, and post-listening. So pre-listening, during which we help our students prepare to listen, while listening, during which we can help to focus their attention on the listening text and guide the development of the understanding of it, and post-listening, during which we can help our students integrate what they have learned from the text into the existing knowledge. So pre-listening activities. So there are certain goals that should be achieved before students attempt to listen to any text. There is, it can include such things as motivation, contextualization, and preparation. So first of all is motivation. So I have already devoted my lecture to the motivation. So motivation, when, it is important part, and it is, very crucial, I would say, maybe activity that before listening, students should be motivated. So they should, try to select a text that they will find interesting, and then design tasks that will arouse, our learners or students' interest and the curiosity. So the next one is contextualization. So when we listen to our everyday lives, we hear language within its natural environment, and that the environment gives us a huge amount of, information about the linguistic content we are likely to hear. And therefore, context or contextualization is very important, because during or within this, context, we teach not only the listening skills, but also the target language, such as grammar or vocabulary. And the next one is preparation part. To do the task, we set students while they're listening. They could be specific vocabulary or expressions that students will need. And it is vital that we cover this, before they start to listen, as we want the challenge within the lesson to be an act of listening, not of understanding what they have to do. And therefore, it is very crucial when we teach prior to listening the target language, whether it is the grammar or vocabulary. So the next one is while listening activities. So while listening activities, when we listen to something in our everyday lives, we do for a reason, yes? And therefore, students to need a reason to listen that will focus their attention. For our students to really develop their listening skills, they will need to listen a number of times. 3 or 4 usually works quite well, as I have found as as a lecturer and as a teacher of the English language, that the first time many students listen to the text, they are nervous and they can be even lost. And in this case, please do encourage them to listen 3 times or maybe 4 times. So the next one is post-listening. So there are 2 common forms that post-listening tasks can take. These are reactions to the content of the text and the analysis of the linguistic features used to express the content. So in this case, again, when you do post-listening activities, you concentrate again, on their comprehension, on their reaction. The next one is the second, purpose is analysis of the target language again. So what you want them to concentrate on, whether it is grammar or again the vocabulary. So the next one is predicting content. So before listening, as I have already mentioned, you draw your learner's attention to the content, right? So before listening. So, and therefore, you may imagine that you have just, turned on your TV, you see a man in a suit standing in front of a large, for example, map with the symbols of a sun, clouds, and the thunder. So what do you imagine he is about to tell you? Most likely, this is going to be a weather forecast, or maybe, for example, traveling or something like that. And therefore, please make sure that you give them prediction. So the next one, depending on the context, for example, a news report or university lecture or an exchange, for example, supermarket and so on, you can often predict the kind of words and style of language the speaker will use in the future. So predicting content, again, so as you see from this presentation, that practice, when you work with your learners, you should practice predicting content. So that means you encourage your learners to watch or listen to a recorded TV program or clip from your YouTube, for example, channel, and then you have to also pause after a few seconds, after a few sentences, try to predict what is going to happen or what the speaker might say next. So, and the tip for your learners will be, if you are, for example, taking a listening test, skim through the questions, before to predict what kind of information they are going to listen for. And the question beginning, how many, for example, will probably require you to listen for a specific number of something. And therefore it is very important when you just skim the questions before listening. So listening for gist. This is another skill, listening for gist, and therefore you may also practice listening for gist with your students. Find a short video with subtitles on a topic that interests you. Use the title to help you predict the content and then listen out for the content words. Then go back and listen again with the subtitles. How much did you understand that first time? And then again you have to return to the video a week later and try again. This is also very good strategy when you train your learners to guess what is they listening about. And as a tip is given here that when you learn new words, I mean your students learn new words, try to group them with other words used in a similar context, and the mind maps are really very good in this case. So another very good strategy is detecting sign points. For example, if a university lecturer says, I'm going to talk about 3 factors affecting global warming, then later on you might hear the phrases first of all, or moving on to, and in summary to indicate the next part of the talk. Other words and phrases can function in a similar way. For instance, to clarify, in other words, or to put it another way, to give examples such as to illustrate this, or for example, and so on. Take a look at this list of phrases for more examples. So all these strategies help your students to understand and comprehend the listening recording, because you see listening is a really very difficult point that students usually struggle with, even with their native language. And in this case, you have to be careful what you choose and how to choose and so on. So thank you for your attention.